Hello, my name is Solon, and this is Video Game Choo Choo's review of Imperishable Memories. Imperishable Memories is a side-scrolling shooter made by Jennifer Ray about a boy who needs to apologize to his ex-girlfriend for hurting her. Before he can do that, he needs to unpack all of his previous emotional baggage to understand to what extent he is broken, before he can appropriately comprehend how she has been hurt by him. Much of that emotional baggage has been physically manifested and now wants to destroy him. Some people drink to forget, whereas others jump on their hoverboard with a laser gun screaming, "I must destroy the past!" at their own psychic projections. Coping is more an art than a science. Imperishable Memories starts in an apocalyptic place and manages to escalate chaotically through multiple dimensions and fragmenting realities. The unstable tone is a good metaphor for the game, as Imperishable Memories tries to be a lot of different things with varying success. The game opens with your best friend stabbing you in the back and attacking you with skyscrapers. And then, by the end, a normal thing you do is dodge dimensional vortexes while under attack by your latent subconscious manifestation of jealousy. It's incredible how much emotional gravity is packed into such a small space. You're looking at a crude coloring book drawing that's shooting simple orbs at each other, while something akin to the plot of Inception is unfolding all around them. The ornate style is most plainly obvious in the 3D backgrounds that wildly swirl around the player. Each of the game's 9 levels does a great job depicting the main character's odyssey through his own subconscious, as each space feels uniquely deep. Sometimes you're flying between kaleidoscopic dimensions, other times you're going into the inner sanctums of large castles. There were times when I felt lost in the story because of the rapid pace everything was at, but the settings were so consistently solid that in the end I was able to keep up by following along with the story told by each zone. The pacing of Imperishable Memories is fickle. The story begins in medias res, but then repeatedly shifts chaotically from what is already an uncomfortable spot before we have a chance to feel settled or grounded. It also somehow ends in medias res, right after identifying a few funny plot holes, and so you're just left hanging when it ends. Since the game is only an hour long, it is very pedal to the metal, and as interesting as that is for how it handles storytelling, it rubs contrary to how each level is designed, because each level follows a very specific formula. You shoot for a bit, you dodge bullets, there's a cutscene, a big warning flashes, there's some conversation to introduce the boss of the level, you fight the boss for 30 seconds, and then the boss dies. While the presentation is chaotic and interesting, that formula is the same for every level. Even down to the final boss fight also being screens where you simply survive for exactly 30 seconds. This becomes a fascinating inconsistency for Imperishable Memories. The story spends its time reiterating your rampage through your subconscious, but you can spend most of every level sitting in the bottom corner, not firing a weapon or doing anything. Because of how the game is programmed, you don't ever have to shoot a boss, which makes the boss's health bar essentially meaningless. I've gone for low score runs of the game, and you can finish levels with 0 points, which is a cool facet of the game. But with how cutscenes play out, it does not seem like Imperishable Memories was intended to be played that way. Let's talk about how it was intended to be played though, because this game has very simple controls. You hold one button to shoot things, and you hit another button to throw enemies straight forward. All energy from the player character is a straight line in front of the player, with 2 notable exceptions. When you can use an enemy as a power-up to gain a spreading triple shot, and when your bullets bounce off of walls. These moments never felt like they were capitalized on properly since they were random events in the middle of early levels. Because throwing and shooting things are in the same direction and trajectory, there really isn't a strategic reason to throw enemies instead of always holding the shoot button down. There is a score difference, but the lack of variety makes the shooting quickly feel staid. You also have unlimited lives within story mode, so there is no fail state further than dying and immediately respawning, which feels counterintuitive to a subgenre of game all about the penultimate fail state of a game over. By the end of it all, I was asking, why is this a side-scrolling shooter? If the game state isn't affected by whether or not I shoot, nor whether or not I move, then why am I here? Probably the most unintended consequence of this is that if you don't do anything at all, other characters will still forgive you for hurting them, and act like you've overcome a lot and are now a changed person, which ironically is a pretty great representation of how people bend over backwards to forgive toxic people who've simply compartmentalized how they've treated others. This has taught me a lot about how systems interact with each other to create new meanings. Because Imperishable Memories does a lot of critical work deconstructing the shoot-'em-up subgenre by making it more accessible. There are no more life limits. You can use your grab ability to block incoming enemies. Enemies will line up in predictable patterns. Boss battles are very short so as not to get in the way of storytelling. And in many games of other subgenres, these would be groundbreaking steps being made. Not all games need to be challenging, but I think that there would be a lot gained in Imperishable Memories from diversifying the win and loss conditions within each level. With all that said, Imperishable Memories is a huge swing for the fences. And I don't feel like Jen hit a home run with this one, but she goddamn belted a foul ball right out of the stadium. There is potential here that I feel is absolutely worth $8 on itch.io. If you are interested in niche indie games that are short, reflective, and mash together multiple art styles in quirky ways, or if you just want to see a creative designer making big steps in their craft right in front of you, this might be your thing. I feel the problems in this game will turn people away, but also that making changes could have cascading effects on the overall tone of the game, a tone that I think is very special. I would especially love to see a remastered version of this game far in the future, because this is the kind of modest starting point that makes following game designers really special. The game has a voice all its own as it builds a surreal sci-fi ensemble story in only 60 minutes. The game also steadily feels more confident in itself level by level, and that makes me really excited to see future work by Jen Ray. This is a modest stepping point forward towards amazing things, and that is why Video Game Choo Choo gives Imperishable Memories a 3 out of 5.